He spent weeks weaving the illusion that led the Fallen to him. He left bits of his trail where they couldn't help but find them. He sulked from planet to planet, Mars, then Venus, then Mercury, then back again, following rumors and whispers. He hid from the Guardians, from his own people. He let everything they had built fall apart, while those still loyal to him searched every inch of this forsaken system. Now it was time to stop searching and start building. He needed soldiers, who answered to him and no one else. Bodies to shape, with will and magic and tech, to his needs. These would serve. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again. Upon completing a single game of the Trials of 9, you will be invited to the Third Spire. The white sands of the Third Spire stretch out for miles and miles into infinity. In the center stands a black, twisting obelisk, with silver geometry flowing around it. Inverted pyramids stand locked in orbit, and an unknown planet with its unknown moon and an unknown sun in perpetual eclipse dance across the sky. At the end of the steps leading to the twisted tower stands a woman, the Emissary of the Nine, a grim arbiter for those who would participate in their trials. This emissary, suspended by her own gravity, cloaked in starlight and bathed in darkness. Beneath her painted visage, the face of someone we know all too well, thought lost or dead, the Queen of the Awoken, Mara Sov. Stand in her presence and you may hear her speak. To you, to herself, to the wind, or even to the Nine. Of all the things she has to say, perhaps none are more important than this.
I can hear you clearly. My brother is too distant.
From the Grimoire cards The Aftermath and Ghost Fragment The Reef 4, we know that Mara Sov and Prince Uldren, her brother, have some sort of telepathic connection. They can sense one another. The Grimoire card The Aftermath states, "Do not fear, brother. This was the only choice I had." The sound of her voice ripped him from his sleep. He jumped up. His ship was still contained within its protective sphere. He tried to retract the shield, but it was locked to its initiation time. He couldn't remember activating it. Then he remembered the battle, that blast. What that ship fired was ancient, not bound to anything the origin libraries even sought to describe. He tried to calm down. He thought of her, searching for her pull. He couldn't find it. But he wasn't calm. She always told him. She would always be there, behind the calm. And in Ghost Fragment The Reef 4, we read, "So he bent his head low and listened to the guttural strings of hisses and clicks issued from the maul of a would-be king in yellow, a broken ruler of a broken house, and the last of his kind." They were more alike than he cared to admit. When the creature's anger had burnt itself out, he raised his head to look at it. He didn't need to speak. One Kell rises, another bends its knee. And the prince felt a little hum of starlight ripple through him. The one that let him know she would be pleased with what he had done. These two events would lead to the creation of the House of Dusk, the only fallen house we see in Destiny 2. The Reef 4 card also states, he hid from the Guardians, from his own people. He let everything they had built fall apart, while those still loyal to him searched every inch of this forsaken system. So after the events of Taken King, the Queen of the Awoken was believed to be dead, and the prince missing, ending up on Mars. And the leadership of the Awoken? Uncertain. One would assume that it would have fallen to Prince Uldren, provided the Queen didn't have any children, which is entirely possible because it's very likely, according to the lore, that the Queen has been alive since the collapse. But barring any unknown children, Prince Uldren would be the next in the line of succession. But apparently that's not what happened. and it looks as if Prince Uldren has been usurped. But by who? The Techian Ilian and the Nine. For you, O listener mine, the Techian Ilian betrayed the Queen of the Awoken on the orders of the Nine, to usurp her power. But why? I have a theory. For that answer, we need to go back to the events just before House of Wolves. For those of you who do not know, the entirety of House of Wolves was predicated on the fact that Prince Uldren and his crows were snooping around the Jovians. The Nine were unhappy with this, and they demanded that the prince be turned over to them. The Queen instead gave the Nine Skolas, in an attempt to placate them. They weren't happy. So they released Skolas with weapons and a ship, and Zur telling him, "If you speak, you will be heard." The Queen then called in a favor owed to her by the city, Skolas was stopped, and the Nine were denied their revenge. We know excruciatingly little about the Queen, the Awoken, the Nine, or the arrangement that they had. Hell, we know very little about our arrangement with the Nine. Just that Zur shows up, he's a trash collector for the Nine, and that he sells us stuff. So a lot of this is guesswork, the piecing together of disassociated knowledge. What we do know is that the Nine grant power, but like the Ahamkara, that power always comes at a cost. The Judgment Hand Cannon, a piece of loot attainable through the Trials of Nine, states, "You sought us out. In some small way you found us. But discovery always has a price. With curiosity comes consequence." She's not ready. Seek judgment, grow. But back to the betrayal of the Queen. The Grimoire card, the Coven, reads, "Only a defeat here, now, not there then." Ilian wandered between the two sides of three. The amulet around her neck marked Ilian as the Coven's mother, granting her visions beyond the veil, places only the Queen could go. Our Queen awaits. Lucille attempted to end the challenges. There was little time, and a war to fight. So a decision is nigh. The Harbingers, which to prepare. Shiro was determined to see this all through. Excitement was taught to keep at bay. "We cannot send them all," Protea reminded. "All but one, the oldest. It stays with us. Sita, Kali, Shiro, take the children. Tell her they are to be planted in a dead thing to have children of their own." A plan hid behind Ilian's eyes. But the Techions? They do not share their eyes with others. What if they're not wise enough for the Dreadnought? Ilian turned back to the source. "Seda, do you not have faith in our Queen?" So the Techions were the ones to ready the Harbingers for the battle against Oryx. Ilian, the leader of the group, the only one with powers like the Queen, decided which ones would stay and which ones would fight, and was described to have a plan hidden behind her eyes. One of the other Techions protests, and Ilian just waves off her objection, and we see what happens. The Harbingers are destroyed, all but one that Ilian now controls. The Awoken fleet is gone, and the Queen is believed to be dead. Let's just look at the state of the world. The Reef is nowhere to be seen during the events of Destiny 2. During the House of Wolves and Taken King, we forged an alliance with Petra and the Queen, and when the city fell, the Reef wasn't there to help. Odd, considering they were at Twilight Gap and the Battle of Oryx, without us even asking. From the outside looking in, for the city, those were great moves, but for the reclusive Awoken, both wars cost them dearly, and made the Queen and her brother look weak, and like they cared more about the city than the Awoken. The Nine have some sort of relationship with the Awoken, but that relationship was likely destroyed when the Queen did not hand over her brother as they requested. They freed Skolas, and the events of House of Wolves took place. The prince does not go home after the events of the Taken King. Instead, he hides in the shadows, taking over various fallen houses and building a huge army under one banner. To as Ghost Fragment the Reef 4 states, now it is time to stop searching and start building. Why? Because he let everything they had built fall apart, while those still loyal to him searched every inch of this forsaken system. The use of the phrase, "still loyal to him," means that the majority of the loyalty has shifted. Of the players within the Reef that we know about, Ilian is the only one with powers like the Queen. She also has control over the last Harbinger, Deductive reasoning would then suggest she likely filled the power vacuum left over when the Queen and Aldrin disappeared, because somebody like Petra would be far too loyal to the Queen and her brother to usurp Aldrin. Further speculation would say, given the evidence at hand, this coup was orchestrated by the Nine. The Queen slighted them not once, but twice, and they sought to place somebody else more malleable in power over the reef. Ilian is first introduced as somebody who is already questioning the Queen and plotting. The Queen took the field of battle confident in her abilities, and perhaps had she had the older Harbinger and the children, instead of just the children, then she would have stood a better chance against Oryx. And then we have this odd female character, who appears on the third spire, saying,
I can hear you clearly. My brother is too distant.
And then on top of all of that, Prince Aldrin is working in the shadows and doesn't want to be found, and he's plotting, a plot that seems to require a huge army, one that is loyal to him and him alone. It's a lot of weird coincidences, to say the least, like a puzzle. All of these pieces seem to be forming one picture, but one that is very incomplete. And it still begs a lot of questions. If not to fight a war, then why rally the fallen houses? Where are the Awoken during the campaign of Destiny 2, and why didn't we seek them out? Who is this woman, and why does she talk about a telepathic link between her and her brother, much in the same way Aldrin talks about a telepathic link between him and his sister, the Queen? I don't think there's a shred of doubt, at least in my mind, to the identity of this woman. She is Marazov, Queen of the Awoken, and the Nine have taken her prisoner, and done something to her. If I had to guess, Aldrin rallies an army to take her back from the Nine, then to punish the usurpers of the reef. And you can be sure, like with all things Destiny, we will be called upon to play a key role in the war to come. Will we vanquish the Nine? Or do they have plans for us, much as the trial gear implies? And will they use the Queen as a bargaining chip? Only time will tell. What we do know is that in a live stream, creative story lead CJ Crowan revealed that Bungie has big plans for Marazov in the future. This is totally spoiling like Destiny 2020 or something, but when we get to that world down the road, where that original Pirate Queen comes out, I think it's going to be a really powerful moment. But like always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.